Welcome to Agent Talk again. I have Amos Bar-Joseph, CEO and co-founder of Swan AI, a company that is completely flipping the script on how sales teams use technology. After selling his 2-per-year startup, Amos is now on a mission to make sales human again by letting AI handle all the boring stuff that nobody wants to do so that human can do what they do best, which is building relationships and talking to each other, being human beings. His approach is about replacing salespeople with bots. No, it's not. It's about creating superpower teams of humans and AI working together to create authentic relationships at scale and real connections that actually solve problems. So the thing that actually got my attention from talking to Amos is the fact that he wants to create a company where they target a 10 million ARR per employee. Is that possible? Amos, talk to me. What's going on? How is that even possible?
Yeah, Medito, first of all, thank you for the introduction. Can I take you with me to like every gathering that I have and have you introduce me? Can I do that, please?
I'll be, and
That
then
would
I
be
sit
great.
in the background being like, yeah, what he said. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So we believe that the next 5 years are, the year of the SMB, the year of the small business, small lean teams that are showing the world that using AI agents, you can reach massive scale like never seen before. And it's not about hiring digital workers. That's boring and that has, very low glass ceiling. But it's like reimagining how humans and AI collaborate together, rethinking fundamentally the operating system of a business.
How does that jive with the way that we built companies in the past? Well, why is that a departure? Why is that new?
Yeah, so it's about scale, right? That's the challenge. I'm not talking about finding product market fit or aligning your ICP. This is, challenge that will remain human only, I believe. But when you look at scale, the first instinct that the old playbook got you to do was throw bodies at the problem. Right. So you got a lot of support tickets. Okay, we need to hire a support manager that would hire a support agents that will manage these ticket resolutions. And what happened for Swan is, we're building an autonomous business ourselves. We're trying to get $30 million with just 3 people. We made this constraint that we can do that. We're not allowed to throw bodies at a problem. And so you start using different tools, basically. What do? You have more support tickets. So we thought, okay, let's ask Swan, our AI agent, to participate in that effort, right? How can we use our existing intelligence that we already spent a lot of R&D effort into building? How can we direct these intelligence resources into a scaling challenge that we have? And so basically, instead of throwing bodies, you throw intelligence on a.
All right. I remember you posted about this, and then you work your way down from like the problems that require a lot of people. And then now you were left with a handful of problems that you don't know how to solve, namely onboarding. Talk to me. How is that going to work? How are you going to scale it? Is this going to break your back, or you think you're going to get around it?
Yeah, so it's already breaking my back. I will be honest.
All right. And working 24/7 doesn't count, because that shit isn't human and nobody can do it forever. So let's start with
Yeah, I
that.
agree. I agree. Yeah. So right now we're grinding and it's super hard. I will be honest. And we're working most of the hours of the day. But basically, we figured out a system. And I think it's very interesting to share this system with the world. And I talk a lot about it in my LinkedIn, etc. And it goes like that. So you first start with a manual process where you invest as many resources you can in, finessing that process. So for example, if you look at onboarding, usually at the beginning, onboarding required all of the founders to participate in that. So we had me managing kind of like the commercial relationship, and we have the CPO and co-founder. He was in charge of getting all the product details from the customer. And then the CTO was actually in charge of putting them into the platform. Okay, so it was a collaboration of all of us in the onboarding. We mapped it, we perfected it, we knew how an 11-star experience would work. Now you start working backwards and start to understand how can you integrate an AI agent that would start alleviating some of these processes within that process, and we'll start taking more and more responsibility. And that's what it's fascinating is what we found to work for us better is that what you need to find is a human in the loop way. You always start with a human in the loop. So the AI agent always asks you for permission. It asks you for feedback in every step that you want to take. And then you give it feedback and it records that feedback and saves it for later. And so what you get in that interim process is kind of like a self-learning system that takes your knowledge in a way that is collaborative. You don't need to think about all the use cases in day one. It evolves. And every time there's a new use case that was untapped, the AI agent asks you, record it, and for the next time, it will have, the resolution already in its knowledge base. And so this is how you kind of create this self-learning motion that you can really scale with a small team.
So what have you learned from doing that? When does it fall over? At what point do you lose? Have you lost a customer because you were learning and the customer just lost? And I was like, dude, man, like I'm just gonna go buy some 6 cents or some shit and be done with it.
Yeah, so I would tell a story about where we almost lost a customer, but we won it eventually.
Right,
Yeah,
of course you did, because you
yeah,
came back around.
exactly,
That's what
exactly.
happens.
So it was a funny story. So we just changed our pricing the day before, and one of our customers decided that they wanted an upgrade. Basically, the way that Swan works is that it identifies leads showing intent for you, surface them up on Slack. You can chat with the agent, and then you can just work these leads together with the agent. And so that customer wanted more qualified leads to engage. Just the conversation we love seeing, right? So he told Swan, "Hey, I want to upgrade." Right. And Swan just got an upgrade that it has now access to our pricing information, and it is now allowed to conduct in pricing discussions. That was kind of like a decision
Like
that
a
we made.
negotiation, like a full out, like
Not a negotiation, but more like looking at our knowledge base, seeing our pricing, and sharing that information with the customer.
okay, all right, all right, just surfacing pricing,
Yeah,
pricing.
and this is actually it's like a side note. Swan has kind of like a sidekick that classifies every message that Swan's receives and kind of like classifies is can Swan answer it or is Swan not allowed even to discuss it? Let's shoot it directly to the founders, right?
Yeah,
So what we give is to the classifying agent, pricing discussions, you can just share information right now. It's okay. We give you that liberty, right? And so Swan said, yeah, this is our pricing. This is what it costs, yada, yada, yada. And then this is where things started going off stream is that the customer said, wait, but I remember that your pricing was different. It was X, not Y. And then Swan, and this is actually a problem with LLMs by large. LLMs are built to satisfy, and they are built to perform tasks as you command them. And so the agent directly said, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you can use that pricing, no problem. And so the customer said, perfect. Send me the quote. And then we got, whenever the customer wants a quote, we actually receive a message to bill that customer. And we saw that message and we needed to make a decision. Do we go with our initial pricing or we kind of like honor the agreement here and what Swan did? And we chose the customer because we're not optimizing for short-term revenue. We want to build long-term relationships. But the most interesting part here is that it didn't put us in a direction to limit Swan, but more like got us understanding that this is a point where we want to be involved.
interesting.
This is an amazing point to actually discuss with the customer.
So what do you wish the agent did instead of just caving to the lowest price that the customer
So
did?
it's how we see it. It's not about like what should be the ideal resolution that the agent should conduct here, but it's more like this is a situation where we feel like humans should take responsibility, right? Because we didn't build, and that comes back to like the roots of Swan. We're not building AI agents to replace us. Okay. It's not about AI agents taking care of all of our relationships. It's more about how can we focus our resources on the most crucial points in our customer journey and the most crucial points that are required for us to actually, empower our customers and enable them to grow. And so we realize that this is a point that we want to be involved. It's not like the AI is not competent to handle this situation, but more like this is a point where we want to be in the loop.
So what parts of the sales cycle are replaceable? And what parts are being replaced right now? And what parts in your mind are quintessentially human and they will not be replaced?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think That depends a lot on your ACV, on your average contract value, and it differs between company to company. So the higher the ACV, the tougher is it to replace any part of the sales cycle, basically. And the lower the ACV, then the more you should replace, basically. And I think that,
like take out people out of that.
take the human out of the loop, because let's take both of the extremes. When you look at $20 million deals, then you want a human in the loop, the best sales rep in the world, strategic account executive, that tapping into their knowledge is impossible from an AI standpoint because it's so unique. It's not about intelligence. It's about a unique understanding of the world that you can't really replicate. And you want that strategic account executive to manage that deal, from actually sourcing it to closing it. This is a $20 million deal, right?
When you look can even argue that whoever bought the $20 million bought the rep first, and then they paid $20 million for that service, right? It wasn't just $20 million.
Exactly, 100%. And when you look at the other extreme, when you're selling, a $19 seat software, when the entry point is $19 a month, then from a unit economic standpoint, it doesn't make sense to do outbound. Doesn't make sense to go on demo meetings and do inbound. It just doesn't make sense, right? And so we see a lot of companies with low ACV still going through that outbound model, that are seeing these AI SDRs and are finding a lot of value from it. But the actual notion behind it is that they didn't need to do outbound in the first place. They are, they should be pure marketing companies without any kind of like pure sales motion. And so we see that AI really kind of like breaks that segmentation and pushes the companies to like, which side are you? Are you kind of like in the human side, or are you in the automation side?
Wouldn't AI SDRs just being outbound marketing? Like, what isn't just what they're doing? They're just evangelizing, because they can't really hold a conversation, right? Like once you get them on the phone or whatever. So like all they're doing is just sending out, sequences and stuff.
Yeah. So Manny, you were the founder. You are the founder of Outreach. You were the CEO, and that having a sequence of emails and pushing leads into a sequence of emails, you called it sales automation. People call it today AI SDRs, right? It's not that big of a difference if you just have a set of emails with some personalization levels to it, and you just push leads into that in massive scale. So, people just are enamored with this concept of replacing their SDR. So they want to say, okay, we have an AI SDR. But what it is basically is stitching a workflow of pushing leads into a sales sequence and just having some, next gen personalization capabilities. Okay, so instead of just, hey, name, it could say, I noticed you're a SaaS company. Wow, amazing. But that's not the future of sales.
What's the future of sales?
The future of sales is, first of all, reimagining how sellers work when human and AI collaboration at the core. And it's more about finding the path to the 100x seller. It's not about automating digital workers. It's about how could you unleash that 100x seller in your team, and using, the AI empowerment around him.
Amos, let me tell you a secret. You know what every seller wants in life is not to have to generate pipeline and just walk into a warm meeting and then just take it from there. Right? So like, this is the reason why all the ISDs exist, is because none of the people want to get busy generating pipeline. This is why like there's some very strong sales leaders out there who made their name from being a pipeline generation sales leaders. And there's some others who just sit there and take the inbound. So what do you make of that? Like if a human seller does not want to do the work of pipeline generation, and we know that's true. Like I don't care what LinkedIn says about this. Like we know that's happening. What are you gonna do about it? Like how are your agents gonna help this person?
Yeah, great question. Let's break it down for a second, Manny. So I would challenge that statement, okay, that sellers hate doing pipeline. Okay. If you look at the work required to generate pipeline.
I didn't say hate. I say most people don't like it.
Don't like it.
A lot of people don't like vegetables.
Manny said hate. Everyone should say Manny said hate pipeline. I'm just kidding.
No hating. Only disliking.
Disliking. Yeah, no, I agree. No, and I agree with that notion, at a high level. What I want to say, if I break it down, why I kind of like challenge it, is because the work required to generate pipeline requires you to 99% of the time fail. That is what sellers hate. Sellers love winning. And for that 1% that they are winning, they love that notion. So when they get a yes for a meeting booked, they are excited. It's the best moment of their day. It's not that they hate that. That is the best moment of their day when they get that yes on the screen, right? And it's more about how can you take that 99% of failures and reduce it eventually to zero, right? That will be like an amazing future. Let's say that in the 11-star experience scenario, an AI is able to crunch all the data all the time, do all of the work for you. So when you decide to invest your time, let's say 8 out of 10 times, you get a yes, right? Wouldn't you think that sellers would love that type of activity?
Yeah, no, 100%.
So at Swan, our vision basically is not saying, pipeline generation is too mundane, it's too difficult. Let's try to take it away from sellers and
Yeah.
automate it completely, because we don't think that buyers want it. And we don't think that that's how you can actually generate quality pipeline in that way. What we do want to kind of create a future where sellers focus on less and less and less conversations to drive more and more and more pipeline.
No, I see it too. I just don't know how do you get to a lot of yeses without a lot of no's. But maybe
Mhm.
that's just the old school way of doing it. And like, instead of like banging the phone, Swan is just gonna give it to you. I mean, that sounds like a
Okay, yeah,
beautiful
that's that.
thing.
Yeah, so how let's get tactical. Let's get tactical here. I get it. I get the skepticism.
And I want you to tie that into, because if you are able to do that, then you can build a company that has 3 people and clocks $30 million. So like tie that whole narrative together for the audience that wants to
Mhm.
be like Amos when they grow up. You know what I mean? They want to be famous like Amos, if you know what I'm saying.
um, okay, so our approach to go to market is different than most companies, in B2B SaaS or whatever. We take for granted that at any given point of time, only 5% of the market is actually in market. And our ability to predict in a consistent way who are these 5% accounts is lacking. We will never be able to completely understand which accounts are actually in market so we can just direct resources for them. Okay. So the way that we approach it is that we have proxies for that. And we look at these proxies as an opportunity to tell a story rather than convert. Okay.
Hmm.
And so we never pitch with a hard CTA. Never. Okay. It's only about, look, something happened in your business. There's an event that is relevant to your day to day as a VP of sales and to Swan's value proposition. I want to provide you with value, right? To tell you how you can manage that business event in the light of sharing Swan's story. Okay. And what we're envisioning a future where Swan can monitor the relationships, top of the funnel relationships with thousands of accounts in parallel. And every time there's an opportunity to tell your story, you will be there. And whenever the account moves from the 95% to the 5%, they already know who you are. They will raise your hand. They will tell you, you know what, I want to talk. And so you're never losing because you never want to get that meeting. And you stop pushing leads into a 30 touch point sequence. And if you fail, you throw them out. Okay. You have an AI agent that kind of like personalized an undetermined sequence to every account based on what is happening within that account over the
Right.
course of a quarter, of a year. And so Swan looks at a timeline always, it looks at what happened before, and it will look at what is happening now, and it will create a recommendation how to engage that lead. And then something new is happening with that business. It will look at what happened with the timeline and what we should we do right now. And so what we're offering basically is undeterministic sequences and the ability for Swan to manage all of these accounts in parallel for you. So you don't need to actually manage the context. You just need to make a strategic decision at that given point of time. And we believe that that will help you to focus on the best touch points, you will get much higher response rates. It's not about meetings booked, but you will get much higher response rates. You will manage much more conversations with prospects, and you'll be able to win much more deals eventually.
No, look, the dream is alive. So, as long as you're making progress towards that dream, I think everybody's going to be better off. Because I agree with you. It's not about just blind personalization. It's about relevance. It's about being in the right relevant fact to the person who needs it at the right moment. And when that works, it's like magic. You know what I mean? It's like you can read minds, right? The idea of a person anticipating need is just like that 11-star service that you talked about, right? Like you know what I want before I want it, before I need it, or before I express it. So in the last 3 minutes, if you would, what's your advice for people wanting to build large companies with a handful of people? So what's a step 1, 2, and 3? Okay, so you got like 50 people around you. Whether you lay off half, or you keep or you're 3 and you don't want to invest in personnel. So like how do you arm yourself to build a large company with a fewest amount of people?
Yeah, so I think it's the composition of 2 factors mainly. First, and I mentioned this earlier in the conversation, is that you need to stop thinking of hiring people to solve challenges. So you want to create more pipeline, think of how you can do it without hiring more SDRs. You want to grow revenue, think of how you can do it without hiring more AEs. Okay, you want to scale support, how can you do it without hiring more reps? Right. That is the first thing. Now you need to couple it with this ops wizard. And I think every team should have that ops wizard. We have Ido, my co-founder CPO, who is a product technical person who has an amazing customer understanding, but also back office understanding, and has the patience to go down into connecting.
Wait, time out. Like, this is like saying the secret of happiness is to find a unicorn. Like, you go out and find a unicorn, and then you'll be really happy. Like, they don't exist, bro. Like, come on. Like, you happen to know one, but like, what for the rest of us? What do we do?
Yeah, so I think it's not a question of 0 to 1. So I think when you aspire to do that, and you need to identify within your team who has the potential, the biggest potential to do that. And maybe it's not just one person. So maybe you look at your go-to-market team and you say, you know what, Manny has that sense of technical understanding, and we can teach him. He's not really good at ICP and messaging, etc. But we can teach them that part, but he can be that guy that would actually lead that initiative in our go-to-market.
That's awesome.
And then have Manny the source of truth for our AI initiatives, and have for every department that specific person that has this balance between technicality, but also like a business orientation, and has this yes, can do approach. And you'll be able to find it.
So do you think that every organization, so can you make the statement that every organization has, an ops wizard in their midst that they just haven't really recognized, and that they can just ask them to step up, and they'll step up and, become a true wizard?
I believe that in the next 5 years, we are going to see 3 types of businesses. The first one will be the biggest losers of the revolution, and they will be the ones trying to automate their workforce, replace their workforce with digital workers, and they will be left behind. Then we have innovators that will be partially winners of that revolution, and they will be the ones that are implementing AI agent tooling across their entire stack. So they will have an AI agent support system. Okay. And that will be completely disparate from their AI agent for outbound. And that will be completely disparate from their coding agent. But then you have that third type of businesses, which will be the unicorns, which will be the innovative companies of the world, what we call the autonomous business. Those will be lean teams that are building AI agents as their product, and they will be able to rally their entire agentic workforce around that specific agent. That's what we're doing at Swan. We're not buying tooling out of the shelf. We're actually building our own AI agent to participate in every part of the business. And that's how we can, through composability and through an amazing technological perspective, we can scale infinitely.
How many other Swans are out there? Like, what other company you think is out there locking arms with you, doing the same thing, that sees your same vision?
So I would say that we're seeing more and more companies like that. So we've seen, Lovable hitting, 1 million ARR per employee. Also, Aragon AI, a lot of these innovative companies that are building AI at the core of their solution are also, being able to, exceed this, what we call the Swan Metric, which is going above 1 million ARR per employee. But the thing is that we're seeing that this is, Manny, more than just a set of unique companies. It's a movement. We're seeing hundreds of thousands of businesses that wants to participate in that transformation. There are SMBs that believe that they have the potential to fight the biggest enterprises in their market. They've been waiting for the AI revolution as their opportunity to actually envision and become this potential.
That's awesome. All right, folks, you heard it here first. The Swan Metric. Amos, Swan Metric, $1 million per employee. Be there or be square. The revolution is here. Call Amos if you want to know how it's done. Thank you so much, bro, to see you. It was great to see you. Great conversation as always.